All right, we need to talk about what's shaping up to be one of the most significant winter storms in recent years. All the key ingredients are aligning at exactly the right time for widespread snow and ice. This system has the potential to impact everything from Texas straight through to the East Coast. It all starts with a powerful Arctic air mass surging south, bringing dangerous cold to the northern plains. We're talking about wind chills, dropping as low as 65 degrees below zero in some locations. While that Arctic blast crashes southward, a surge of Gulf moisture is pushing north at unusually high levels. When that moisture collides with the entrenched cold air, precipitation will intensify rapidly. What makes this setup particularly concerning is how slowly this entire system is going to evolve. A slow-moving winter storm means prolonged impacts and much higher accumulation totals. Before we dive deep into the timeline, let me know in the comments which city or region you want me to cover. I'll do my best to give you specific forecasts for your area as this situation continues to develop. Now let's break down exactly what's going to happen and when you need to start preparing. This is honestly one of the most concerning winter storm patterns I've tracked in the past 5 years. We could be looking at a crippling winter event stretching from the southern plains through the southeast and up to the coast. Let's start with Wednesday, when our first system begins moving across the Midwest. This will be a quick Alberta clipper, bringing 1 to 2 inches of snow to Chicago and southern Wisconsin. By late Wednesday into Thursday morning, another system tracks north of the Great Lakes. This brings light to moderate snow across Pennsylvania, Michigan, and portions of the Northeast. Thursday itself will actually be the quietest day of the week for precipitation. But Thursday is when the real story begins, and it's all about the Arctic blast. A powerful high-pressure system drops out of Canada, funneling bitter cold air deep into the south. For the northern plains and upper Midwest, we're looking at life-threatening wind chills. Areas north of Minneapolis could see wind chills plummet to 60 degrees below zero or colder. This extreme cold persists through Thursday, Friday, and Saturday across the northern tier. If you're in the upper Midwest, you may not see much snow, but conditions will be brutally dangerous. Now here's where things get serious, especially for the central and southern plains. Friday is when the winter storm really begins to crank up across a huge portion of the country. Arctic air diving south from Canada meets moisture streaming in from both the Pacific and the Gulf. An imaginary boundary stretches from New Mexico all the way back through Virginia. Along that boundary is where moisture and cold air collide to create a massive winter storm. This is unlike anything we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years because of how many factors are converging. We don't have a typical low-pressure system spinning up like you'd see with a nor'easter. Instead, we have an intense high-pressure system at 1,054 millibars over South Dakota. That high pressure is squeezing cold air southward and essentially manufacturing this winter storm. By Friday afternoon, wintry precipitation begins ramping up across the southern plains. This marks the beginning of what could be a multi-day stretch of dangerous winter weather. Freezing rain and snow begin across Oklahoma, Kansas, and back toward Little Rock, Arkansas. Light freezing rain starts near the Red River Valley of Texas, including areas like Amarillo and Lubbock. By Friday evening, the intensity really picks up across Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas. Freezing rain begins as early as 4 to 5 p.m. if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. For Oklahoma City, you're looking at a dangerous mix of snow and ice beginning Friday evening. This continues through Saturday morning with potential for several inches of snow and significant ice. Travel will be extremely hazardous, if not impossible, across the metro area. Tulsa faces a similar situation with heavy snow and ice, making roads impassable Friday night into Saturday. For Wichita, Kansas, the main concern is heavy snow, with accumulations potentially reaching 6 to 10 inches. Kansas City sits right on the edge between heavy snow to the north and ice to the south. Even a slight shift in the storm track makes a massive difference between 8 inches of snow or crippling ice. For Dallas-Fort Worth, after one of the warmest starts to winter on record, reality is about to hit hard. Freezing rain moves in Friday night and continues into Saturday, potentially causing widespread outages. Ice accumulations could be significant enough to snap tree limbs and down power lines across the Metroplex. For Houston, you're on the southern edge, but freezing rain is definitely possible in northern suburbs. Even the city itself could see temperatures drop to freezing, with rain transitioning to sleet. San Antonio sits right in the transition zone, where rain could mix with or change to freezing rain. For Austin, this could be one of the most significant winter weather events in over a decade. Now let's shift east to Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, where things get even more concerning. Little Rock is looking at a combination of heavy snow transitioning to ice, potentially one of the worst storms in years. Snow accumulations of 6 to 12 inches are possible before the changeover to freezing rain. For Memphis, Tennessee, ice is the primary threat, with a significant freezing rain event likely. This setup could cause major disruptions to power and travel across the entire metro area. Shreveport and Bossier City face a similar ice threat, with accumulations potentially crippling the region. Jackson, Mississippi could see its most significant winter weather event since the historic 2021 ice storm. For New Orleans, you're far enough south that impacts should be minimal, mainly just very cold temperatures. But even the Gulf Coast will feel the Arctic blast, with temperatures dropping into the 20s and 30s. Now let's talk about the southeast, where cold air damming creates a particularly dangerous setup. Cold air gets trapped against the Appalachian Mountains, creating a wedge of frigid air at the surface. When moisture rides over that cold wedge, you get ice instead of snow or rain. This is exactly what we're seeing with this system, and it's why the ice threat is so significant. For Birmingham, Alabama, you're looking at a mix of snow and ice beginning Saturday morning. This could be a prolonged event, with impacts lasting through Sunday across central Alabama. Huntsville sits further north and has a better chance of seeing more snow than ice. Accumulations of 3 to 6 inches are possible, which would be significant for northern Alabama. For Nashville, Tennessee, you're right in the zone for heavy snow, with potential for 4 to 8 inches. This would create major travel problems across Middle Tennessee throughout the weekend. Knoxville could see similar snow totals, with the potential for ice mixed in depending on temperatures. Chattanooga sits in a transition zone, where the difference between snow and ice is extremely tight. For Atlanta, you're on the southern edge, but freezing rain is definitely possible, especially north of the city. The northern suburbs and areas toward the mountains could see the most significant impacts. Now let's move to the Carolinas, where this storm has the potential to be truly historic. Charlotte, North Carolina is looking at significant snow, potentially 6 to 12 inches based on current models. This would be one of the heaviest snowfalls Charlotte has seen in over a decade. Raleigh-Durham sits in a zone where heavy snow is likely, with accumulations possibly reaching 8 to 12 inches. The Research Triangle could see major disruptions with this much snow over such a prolonged period. For Greensboro and Winston-Salem, you're right in the heart of the predicted heavy snow zone. Some models are suggesting totals approaching a foot or more, which would be absolutely crippling. Asheville in the mountains could see significant snow as well, potentially over a foot in higher elevations. For Columbia, South Carolina, the setup favors a significant ice event rather than heavy snow. Freezing rain could cause widespread power outages across the Midlands region. Charleston and the coastal areas might even see freezing rain reach all the way to the coast. That speaks to just how intense the cold air damming setup is with this system. For Greenville, Spartanburg, you're in the transition zone, where both heavy snow and ice are possible. Upstate South Carolina could see some of the most significant winter weather in years. Now let's shift to Virginia in the Mid-Atlantic, where this storm continues to pack a punch. Richmond, Virginia is looking at heavy snow, with current models suggesting 6 to 10 inches possible. This would create major travel disruptions across the Richmond metro area and I-95 corridor. For Norfolk and Virginia Beach, you're on the eastern edge, where the snow gradient gets very tight. Even a small shift in the track could mean the difference between 2 inches and 8 inches of snow. Roanoke in southwest Virginia could see significant snow, potentially 4 to 8 inches. For Washington, D.C., the forecast is tricky because you're right on the northern edge of heavy snow. Current trends suggest 3 to 6 inches possible, but a slight shift brings much heavier totals. Baltimore faces a similar situation, sitting right on that critical gradient between 2 and 8 inches. For Philadelphia, you're getting close to the northern extent of the main impact zone. Light to moderate snow is possible, but the heaviest impacts should stay south of the city. New York City and northern New Jersey are on the far northern fringe of this system. You might see some light snow, but the main story will be the Arctic blast of cold air. For Boston and New England, this system stays mainly to your south and west. The primary impact will be brutally cold temperatures rather than significant snow. Now let me explain the meteorology behind why this setup is so potent and unusual. Looking at the upper atmosphere, we have a ridge bulging into Alaska with a deep trough diving south. This pattern is funneling some of the coldest air of the season deep into the United States. At the surface, that 1,054 millibar high pressure over the Dakotas is incredibly strong. For reference, anything over 1,030 millibars is considered a strong Arctic high. This is driving frigid air all the way down into the deep south, which is remarkable. Temperature anomalies show readings 25 to 30 degrees below average across the northern plains. Even the Gulf Coast states will see temperatures 10 to 15 degrees below normal. Here's the key issue for those hoping for snow instead of ice in the southeast. Snow requires cold air not just at the surface, but also in the upper atmosphere. When you have warm air aloft with cold air trapped at the surface, you get freezing rain. Current models show exactly this pattern over much of the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Surface temperatures well below freezing, but a warm layer aloft melting the snow into rain. That rain then refreezes when it hits the cold surface, creating dangerous ice accumulation. We would need to see that warm air aloft get pushed down for more areas to convert to snow. Some model runs show this happening, which explains the differences between the European and GFS. But the safest bet right now is to prepare for significant ice across the Carolinas and Tennessee. Looking at long-range forecasts, this pattern of below normal temperatures continues. The 6 to 10 day outlook shows cold air persisting across the eastern two-thirds of the country. Combined with above average precipitation chances, that's the perfect recipe for winter weather. And here's something else to consider. This might not be the only winter storm we see. Models are showing another potential system in the final days of January into early February. Another trough is setting up right behind this one, bringing more cold air diving southward. The pattern we've entered is one of the most favorable for widespread winter weather in years. Now let's talk specifics about snow and ice accumulations based on current model data. Keep in mind this is very early and these numbers will definitely change over the next few days. Models are still disagreeing on exactly where the heaviest snow and ice will set up. But I want to give you a sense of the magnitude we're potentially dealing with here. The European model is showing significant snow from Texas all the way through Tennessee and Kentucky. Some areas near Little Rock and Oklahoma City could see close to a foot of snow. This is because the storm is so slow moving that snow just keeps piling up hour after hour. Cold air and moisture get trapped with no movement in the jet stream to push things eastward. That's why this could be a much more significant event than the snow rates alone would suggest. Even if the snow is falling lightly, a slow-moving system means totals stack up quickly. The GFS model shows the snow shield shifted about 100 to 200 miles further south. This is why I'm being cautious about exact numbers, because that's a massive difference in impacts. Either scenario could play out, though I think the European model placement is more likely. The European has been more consistent, and the GFS is now trending toward what the European shows. For the East Coast, the heaviest snow looks most likely across Virginia and North Carolina. The European model is showing some truly impressive numbers, close to a foot in spots. This would make it one of the most significant winter storms for these areas in quite some time. Now let's talk about ice accumulation, because this is where things could become historic. We could be looking at a major ice storm stretching from Dallas-Fort Worth all the way to the Carolinas. Remember, it only takes 1/100th of an inch of ice to create serious travel problems. Most southern roads aren't treated, so even small amounts of ice make conditions treacherous. We could easily see widespread closures Saturday, Sunday, and Monday if this forecast verifies. This isn't just about personal travel either. It impacts businesses across multiple states. We're talking about potentially 3 full days of shutdowns, which is devastating for small businesses. Infrastructure damage and widespread power outages are absolutely on the table next weekend. Ice accumulation of 1/4 inch or more can snap tree branches and bring down power lines. Some areas could see 1/2 inch or more, which would be catastrophic for power infrastructure. Over on the East Coast, cold air damming could create significant ice across the Carolinas and Georgia. Again, it's too early for specific ice accumulation numbers, but everyone should be preparing. If you're anywhere from the southern plains through the southeast and into the Ohio Valley, you're in the zone. Ice is the most concerning aspect of this storm, though snow will certainly cause major travel issues too. For those of you who rarely see snow, this could be exciting, but don't underestimate the danger. So what should you do to prepare? Start now, don't wait until Friday afternoon. Stock up on supplies in case you lose power, flashlights, batteries, non-perishable food, water. Charge all your devices and have backup power options ready for phones and essential equipment. Make sure you have a way to stay warm if the power goes out. Extra blankets, alternative heat sources. Avoid travel Friday through Sunday if at all possible. This is not a storm to be out driving in. If you absolutely must travel, have an emergency kit in your car with supplies for an extended stay. Check on elderly neighbors and anyone who might need help preparing or evacuating if necessary. Bring pets inside and make sure you have enough food and supplies for them as well. This storm has the potential to shut down a large portion of the country for multiple days. I'll be tracking this closely and providing updates as the models continue to refine the forecast. Details will absolutely shift, but the overall signal for a major winter storm is not going away. Again, drop your city or region in the comments and I'll try to give you more specific information. If you found this forecast helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for continued updates. We'll have another update later today or tomorrow as new model data comes in. The bottom line, this is a serious winter storm that you need to take seriously and prepare for now. Stay safe, stay warm, and make sure you're ready before this system arrives Friday. We'll see you in the next forecast with the latest updates on this developing situation.